So about 7 years ago, I was 15. My parents and siblings and I lived in California. Everyone else in my family lives in Washington State. I'm the only female that was the right age for babysitting in my family. There is at least a 5-year age gap between me and my cousins. Because of this, my aunt would fly me to Washington to watch all the cousins during the summer. It was fine with me because I love visiting. First of all, I need to quickly tell you about where I was at. My aunt lived in a mansion in the middle of nowhere on this huge piece of gated land. This place was massive. It was 8 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, and a ballroom, and most importantly, it had a safe room. This home was where all my aunts and uncles would drop off their children for me to babysit while they were at work. I was watching my cousins Peter and Carl, and 4 other cousins. I wasn't really watching Peter, he was just kind of around. All the children were in Peter's bedroom playing, and I was in the kitchen doing dishes on the second floor of the house. After a bit, I decided to check on the kids, so I walked to them and passed through the living room, and that's when I noticed a man standing outside the sliding glass door, looking completely normal. He looked rugged, but that was pretty normal for this area. I was not scared at all. I actually smiled at him and continued walking to the kids. The reason I wasn't scared is because you needed a code to get into the property gate, so I assumed someone must have given him one. I also assumed he was there for some reason, and I would let Peter know because he probably knew the dude. So anyway, I make it to the kids' room and say, "Hey Peter, you know there's a man outside, right?" Peter says, "Yeah, right, that would be scary." So after that, I quiet down and sternly say to him, "I'm not joking. Are you serious?" He says, "No way," and books it down the hall with a trail of my little cousins following. I'm now in complete panic mode, watching my little cousins literally run into dangerous hands. I run after them, screaming at them to stop. We had a case of a boy who cried wolf. They didn't even slightly believe me because of the previous days of us scaring each other with ghost stories and pranks. But their laughing quickly turned into screaming when they saw I was telling the truth. They all booked it to the kitchen. I walked into them lying on the floor for whatever reason. At this point, all my younger cousins were crying. I calmed down and told them to stay put. I walked to the man and asked through the sliding glass door, "Can I help you?" He calmly says, "I want your chipper." Now just to give you a little backstory, my uncle owns a logging business and had one of his chippers on the property. So I explained to the guy that it's not for sale, but for whatever reason the man did not understand that the chipper was not for sale. I decided to call my uncle and explain to him what's up. I hand the home phone to the crazy man and let my uncle explain this time. I can see from behind the locked door that this dude is getting angry. His face is 50 shades of red. He hangs up, places the phone on our deck stairs, and walks back down towards the chipper. When he's far enough away, I grab the phone and lock back up. I call my uncle and ask what happened in the phone call and let him know that the dude is at the chipper. My uncle asks to talk to Peter. Peter hangs up the phone and starts walking towards the slider with his brother Carl. I ask where they're going, and he said that his father wants me to talk to the crazy guy. It's understandable, since I was 5'1" and he was 6 something and much stronger than I was. So I stand on the deck and I'm watching this scenario unfold. Peter's talking to the crazy guy, and his little brother is playing with a bug in the grass. They are far enough that I can't hear anything, but everything looks to be going smoothly. Peter walks back to me, leaving his brother behind with the crazy guy. He came back to grab the phone to call my uncle, but as he is looking for it in the kitchen, I hear my little cousin Carl screaming bloody murder and crazy man's hand wrapped around his wrist. This is when things really started to go down. I start running to Carl, and Carl gets loose, and he's running to me with crazy man on his tail. He is screaming horrific things to Carl and looks like he wants to kill him. Carl's scream was so terrifying. It still to this day sends shivers through me to think of his high-pitched child scream, thinking he's going to be attacked by this man. When Carl reached the slider, I locked it behind him and screamed to the children to go in the safe room. With crazy man slamming something against the slider, I follow the kids and run into the ballroom downstairs with one of my little cousins in my arm like a football. The safe room is hidden in the ballroom and is made to look like a wall. No one would even know it was there unless it was pointed out. I throw the children in and tell them to stay put and no matter what, do not leave the safe room. Peter and I head back up and quickly go into my aunt's room and grab my phone to call 911. We hear the sliding glass door break and we quickly locked my aunt's door behind us, which wasn't that good of an idea given the fact that the room next to us was my uncle's hunting room, with guns hanging on the walls, with bullets hidden in the safe that we knew the code to. So as we hear the guy walking in the living room, I call 911 and I'm absolutely hysterical. I told the operator the code of the gate, and then realized that this guy must have broke it somehow. I'm not sure, but I think he heard me call the police or something, because everything went quiet, which was almost as terrifying as the screaming. I then heard a car screech, and him plow through our wheat field and through the open gate. Police arrived, and left shortly after to chase the guy, while a couple of cops stayed around to take statements. Soon, the uncles and aunts came and collected my terrified cousins. The next day, they dropped them back off like nothing had happened, and we continued having a great summer together. After the summer ended, I was subpoenaed, but wasn't required to testify in person because I was back in California. He got some jail time, but was out on probation rather quickly. I was a sophomore in high school when my sister asked me to babysit her kids. She has 3 boys. I laid them in the same room so I wouldn't have to be checking in different rooms all night. I went to watch some TV in one of the bedrooms, and I could hear noises outside and creaking, even though it wasn't an old house. Well, I began to hear keys, and then the front door open, and the couple talking and shushing as if they did not want to wake the kids. Then the noise moved up to the kitchen, pots and pans moving around, and getting cups from the counter. I was sure that they were making coffee. Then I left the room where I was watching TV and said out loud, walking down the hall towards the kitchen, "Finally, you guys are home. I've been freaked out all night, hearing all kinds of rambling down here." I stopped as I got to the kitchen when I noticed that there was nobody in the kitchen. I looked for him, but it was just me and the kids. I ran to the kids' room and locked the door until they actually got home. That house was truly terrifying. My youngest nephew used to have an imaginary friend, but only while they lived there. He would call him David and talk to him as if he was real. This experience happened to me when I was babysitting my cousin's 6 children in a neighborhood reservation called Little Saskatchewan. It was June 2007. It was already 10 p.m. I know this because the kids were supposed to be in bed at 9:30. So I got them all ready for bed, and off they went. I sat around for a while, made a snack, and went to the computer room to waste some time, since I wasn't tired yet. I decided to call a friend, since I was feeling uneasy about being up alone in Kathy's house. The nearest neighborhood was quite a ways away, and it was so quiet after the kids were asleep. I was talking on the phone to my friend. It made me forget about the uneasy feeling I had earlier. I decided to go outside for a cigarette. I sat down on the back door steps, still on the phone. I told my friend to wait until I was done because I wasn't too scared when I was talking on the phone. I finished my cigarette and let my friend go. I wanted to do some things around the house. As I was walking inside, I noticed the front door across the living room was wide open. No one ever uses the front door. It was even taped shut because summer in Manitoba is the worst for mosquitoes. I walked fast to close it. I even put a small table in front of it so it wouldn't open again. I checked the kids quickly. They were all sound asleep. Feeling creeped out, I proceeded to go to the computer room to get my mind off of what had happened. As I was sitting there, I heard a knock on the window. There were blinds on it, so I couldn't see out. I got up and walked to the living room, pretending I didn't hear it. Suddenly, I heard knocking at the front door window, then the kitchen window, then all the windows at the same time. It got louder and louder. I flipped out. I know this part is really cliche. I grabbed a knife and the phone and ran and sat with my back against the back door where there were no windows. Then I heard a scratch that started at the top of the door all the way down to the bottom. As it got to the back of my head, I started to cry. I quickly called my friend back and told him everything. His only advice was to tell me to call someone to come and pick me up, which wasn't really a possibility since I didn't know anyone in this area, and that there were 6 kids sleeping in the bedroom. I calmed down enough to get off the phone and made my bed in the living room with the lights on and fell asleep. In the morning, I took a walk outside to look around. There was no evidence of anyone being around. No footprints, nothing. I didn't tell Kathy what happened. I just wanted to go home and get away from there. I told my mom a few days later. She then told Kathy, of course. Kathy admitted that before, when her sister was sleeping over on the couch, that she awoke to a little girl with no face standing right in front of her. After that, no amount of money would make me babysit for Kathy overnight again.